Hello, basketball people, we have news. Let's go to more news about the Golden State Warriors. I ask you to give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, as I am a Warriors fan. The Warriors owner has declared that he will do everything he can to win the championship this season, as he wants to give Stephen Curry, the Warriors' biggest star, his fifth title. The idea of trading players has emerged, allowing the Warriors to bring in the excellent center Walker Kessler. Warriors sparked trade speculation with potential Podziemski for Kessler exchange. The Golden State Warriors made a strategic move this offseason by signing Al Horford, especially after the departure of Kevin Looney. Yet, as the team continues to lean heavily on its guard play, there's a growing sentiment that they could benefit from further enhancing their frontcourt. In a thought-provoking trade scenario proposed by a sports analyst, the Warriors could send fan-favorite guard Brandon Podziemski to the Utah Jazz in exchange for towering center Walker Kessler. This intriguing concept raises several questions about roster balance and future assets. The Warriors have the flexibility to include future picks in a potential trade, but what if they opted for a deal without any draft capital? The proposed structure involves Podziemski and Tracy Jackson-Davis headed to Utah for Kessler. The Warriors would need to include Jackson-Davis or another end-of-roster player to make the contracts align, the analyst notes. Essentially, this trade centers around the value exchange of Podziemski for Kessler. Kessler, a 7'2" center, could significantly enhance the Warriors' frontcourt, offering both immediate benefits and long-term potential. His defensive prowess is hard to overlook. He is widely regarded as one of the league's elite shot blockers. Kessler's ability to time his jumps perfectly while avoiding fouls allows him to excel as an interior defender against aggressive scorers. On the offensive end, Kessler is a pick-and-roll virtuoso. He consistently finishes well in lob situations and has proven effective in back-to-the-basket post-ups. Last season, he showcased his abilities with an impressive average of 11.1 points, 12.2 rebounds, and 2.4 blocks per game, shooting an astonishing 66.3% from the field over 58 appearances. The road ahead. As Kessler embarks on his fourth NBA season with the Jazz in a matchup against the Los Angeles Clippers, his performance will be under keen observation. If he emerges as a serious trade candidate for the Warriors leading up to the February 5 deadline, the former lottery pick could play a pivotal role in a franchise-altering midseason deal. With the potential for significant roster changes on the horizon, the Warriors' front office will have to weigh their options carefully. The buzz surrounding this hypothetical trade speaks to the ongoing evolution of the team as they seek to fortify their chances in the competitive Western Conference. NBA Insider finally puts full stop to nonsensical Jonathan Kuminga trade idea. They're only trading him under one condition. Jonathan Kuminga's name is likely to continue being bandied about in Golden State Warriors trade speculation prior to February's midseason deadline, even if the young forward continues producing excellent performances like we saw in Tuesday's season-opening win over the Los Angeles Lakers. However, more performances like that will only further confirm that Kuminga will only be dealt in exceptional circumstances, with one NBA insider quashing the idea of the Warriors taking draft capital or some kind of downgrade in talent. Warriors will only trade Jonathan Kuminga for a legitimate star. According to Sam Amick of The Athletic following Tuesday's opening night victory, there's a limited list of names that the Warriors would actually trade Kuminga for right now despite the constant speculation. While so many have assumed that Kuminga would be traded by the February deadline, the truth is that the Warriors don't see a lot of players out there whom they'd be willing to swap for him anytime soon, Amick wrote. Amick did bring up Giannis Antetokounmpo and Trey Murphy III as players who Golden State would be willing to give Kuminga up for, having both been seen as dream trade targets for the franchise over recent months, and for years in the case of the Milwaukee Bucks superstar. Even Murphy might not be enough of an upgrade if Kuminga is going to deliver those sort of performances on a consistent basis. The 23-year-old had 17 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists in nearly 34 minutes on Tuesday, having shot 4 of 6 from three-point range, which included 3 in a dominant third quarter. A nonsensical Kuminga for Nikola Vucevic trade continues to be floated now that they make similar salaries, and even more so after former NBA player Chandler Parsons predicted the Warrior forward would be a member of the Chicago Bulls by the All-Star break. Bleacher Report's Andy Bailey proposed earlier in the month that the Bulls could trade Vucevic and a lottery-protected first-round pick for Kuminga, giving the Warriors another veteran center option beyond Al Horford, who is currently limited to 20 minutes per game. However, Amic's comments should put an end to such an idea, with Golden State evidently only willing to move Kuminga if it nets them an obvious and unequivocal upgrade. That wasn't on offer during sign-and-trade negotiations during the offseason, leaving the Warriors to re-sign the former 7th overall pick on a 2-year, $48.5 million contract, second-year team option. Stephen A. Smith thinks Al Horford can be a huge deal for the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors picked up Al Horford right before the season started. Horford is 39, but he still provides an important skill set that the Warriors need. He's also a big body that adds some nice size to their lineup. Stephen A. Smith went as far as saying that the veteran will be a huge deal for Golden State's title chances. I'm looking at Al Horford and I think this brother could be a huge deal for the Golden State Warriors. He turns 40 in June, he's already a champion, he's been to 2 NBA finals. If you have size, and you have experience, and championship pedigree, and you combine that with young guys like Podziemski and Kuminga, and you see Draymond and Jimmy Butler and Stephen Curry, you got something here. The real reason the Warriors foolishly passed on Lauri Markkanen is finally revealed. Markkanen really could have been what pushed Golden State back to the top. The Utah Jazz discussed trading Lauri Markkanen to the Golden State Warriors almost a year and a half ago, but it never went anywhere, and shortly afterward, Markkanen signed a mega extension with the Jazz. It came out today why the Warriors didn't pull the trigger on a Markkanen trade. Draymond Green told them not to. Per ESPN's Anthony Slater, Green told them not to acquire Markkanen because of what Utah was asking for him. Green even told Dunleavy and controlling owner Joe Lacob the summer prior not to greenlight a trade for Lauri Markkanen, considering the Utah Jazz were asking for all the draft picks and young players, Slater reported. Green himself told Slater that it had nothing to do with Markkanen, even praising the Jazz star in the process. Instead, it was something else. I'm a big fan of Markkanen's game, Green told Slater. But I think if you want to do something so huge you better be certain that this is the move. You usually don't win those things against Danny Ainge. I look at history. At the time, Markkanen was on the league's most team-friendly contract, so it would not have taken that much contract-wise to make a deal. Green brought up last year that Ainge is someone teams shouldn't get into trade negotiations with, but the fact that he believed that so strongly that he advised Golden State not to trade for Markkanen because of it is new. More than that, such a decision is so stupid because Markkanen could have been the last piece for the Warriors to win another title while their window was still open, and it looks even worse in hindsight because the possibility of the team adding both him and Jimmy Butler would have made them feel confident in a playoff series against Oklahoma City or Denver. But because Ainge asks for the farm, the Warriors decided not to exponentially help their chances of winning banner number 5, and possibly more with Curry and Green. It's not guaranteed that they would have won a title with Markkanen, but they would have been better. Ainge may get value for his guys, but the teams he's traded with shouldn't have any regrets. Green isn't wrong about how demanding Ainge can be, but where he's mistaken is thinking that everyone he deals with gets ripped off. That has happened before, but not recently. Minnesota and Cleveland gave pretty much every last asset they could for Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, respectively. They haven't gotten a title following those trades, but if asked whether they would make those deals again in hindsight, they would answer in the affirmative without thinking twice. The Warriors would have been at more risk of giving the Jazz golden assets down the line than the Timberwolves or Cavaliers were, but would they have cared if it meant more titles? Markkanen proved last night that he's still very much the same star he has been for Utah that he was in his first 2 years as a Jazzman. Draymond and the Warriors can feel secure about having their long-term assets, but they may feel regret knowing their dynasty could have extended further in the 2020s had they not been so afraid to deal with Trader Dan. Draymond Green is excited to have DeAnthony Melton back. The Warriors are perfect to start their season despite not having 2 key role players in their rotation. Moses Moody remains out with a left soleus strain and DeAnthony Melton is still recovering from his left ACL surgery. Melton is rehabbing and will be re-evaluated in a few weeks, with a best-case scenario for his return being sometime in November. Draymond Green talked about the return of Melton and said he is a big piece for them. When DeAnthony Melton got hurt last year, that really took a toll on our team. He was really good for us and a big piece of what we were doing. Then he got hurt and everything changed. He will be rehabbing, but we got the depth to withstand his rehab. DeAnthony Melton will have another shot with the Golden State Warriors. Melton signed a one-year, $12.8 million deal with the Warriors in the 2024 offseason. The Warriors thought Melton was going to be their answer at the two-guard position. Melton appeared to be that for the Warriors as he averaged 10.3 points in his first 6 games of the season. However, he suffered a torn ACL against the Dallas Mavericks in November 2024, which would rule him out for the rest of the season. Since Melton was on an expiring contract, Golden State traded him alongside 3 second-round picks to the Brooklyn Nets for Dennis Schroeder. The Warriors then signed and reunited with Melton in October 2025. The hope is that Melton can get back to full strength and become a valuable rotation player for the Warriors this season. Warriors already proven right for Jonathan Kuminga patience very few wanted. They may have been right. By late September, many Golden State Warriors fans were rightly sick and tired of the Jonathan Kuminga free agency drama, so much so that some simply wanted the franchise to move on from the young forward after a turbulent 4 years. Yet just 2 games into the regular season, the Warriors have already been rewarded for their patience in Kuminga's free agency despite the constant pressure to find a resolution and confirm their subsequent roster signings. Jonathan Kuminga is playing a surprisingly major role for the Warriors. Imagine saying a month ago at a point where Kuminga remained unsigned and with his future still up in the air that the 23-year-old would have averaged the second most minutes of any Golden State player over the first 2 games. Perhaps more importantly, imagine saying that Kuminga would close both games and play a vitally important role in back-to-back wins over the Los Angeles Lakers and Denver Nuggets. It's a stunning early turnaround from what was a long and frustrating offseason, with Kuminga finally returning on a 2-year, $48.5 million contract with a second-year team option. The front office was already rewarded by getting the former 7th overall pick back on their terms, rather than caving to the player option demands that had been made so public by Kuminga's agent, Aaron Turner, during the negotiations. But now they've been rewarded by Kuminga's on-court production, something that started in preseason where he was clearly bought in with increased rebounding activity and a willingness to involve his teammates far more than what was seen through his first 4 years in the league. That's only got better through the first 2 games of the regular season, with Kuminga taking on many of the role player aspects that Golden State have been pleading for him to deliver during his career to date. Kuminga's 14 total rebounds are only behind Draymond Green's 15, while his 4.5 assists per game are far beyond the 1.8 he's averaged for his career, yet his turnover rate remains the same. He's also taking on the primary point of attack defense responsibilities, something that should continue despite the imminent return of fellow 2021 lottery pick Moses Moody. In return, Kuminga's getting the sort of playing opportunity and trust he's desperately been searching for. We've seen this at times before and it inevitably ends with him being pushed back to the bench, but this does feel a little different based purely on the mature way he's playing alongside Golden State's veteran core. Could the entire offseason prove just a blip on the radar to Kuminga remaining with the Warriors long-term? There's certainly a long way to go, but it feels far more likely than what it was even a week ago. Warriors' potentially disastrous offseason backup plan for Al Horford revealed. Luke Kornet would not have been the answer for the Warriors. As the Golden State Warriors navigated the offseason, their top priority was to bring in a player who could help shore up their center rotation, which was led by the undersized Draymond Green last season. While they ultimately were able to negotiate a 2-year contract with veteran center Al Horford, Anthony Slater revealed in a piece for ESPN that they also had interest in Luke Kornet, who ultimately signed with the San Antonio Spurs. While Kornet would have been a good addition for many teams, he most certainly would not have solved the Warriors' problems. Although their interest obviously never came to fruition, it is still possible to reflect on what was ultimately a bullet dodged for the organization. Luke Kornet would have been a majorly disappointing offseason acquisition. According to Slater, Horford, team sources said, was their absolute 1A target and no other free agent was in his vicinity. They also held a level of interest in Luke Kornet, sources said, but he signed with San Antonio out of their price range. To be sure, Kornet is an exceedingly solid center insofar as he is able to perform the duties of a traditional big man in a limited role. Last season, through 73 games with the Boston Celtics, he averaged 6 points, 5.3 rebounds, and 1.6 assists on a diet of 18.6 minutes per night. However, with Green's obvious desire to move back to the power forward spot and the questionable viability of both Quinton Post and Tracy Jackson-Davis on larger workloads, the team needed a center who could take over major minutes and help shore up the team's front on both ends of the floor. Horford, undoubtedly, represents that. Last season, also with the Celtics, he averaged 9 points, 6.2 rebounds, and 2.1 assists on a diet of 27.7 minutes per night. Moreover, as a viable three-point shooter, Horford presents a weapon that Golden State has not had in a long time, a bona fide stretch center. His presence not only allows Green to slide back to his more natural defensive positioning, but it also helps the Warriors to spread the floor on offense. While it remains to be seen what his production will look like this season, Horford represents a genuine, starting caliber center for the Warriors even at the age of 39.